Same here, pleasure.
So Ali,
Hi,
Ali presenting a set of brats. The backbenchers are not here right now, but most lively bunch of people around. So,
But it is still a question to understand
have a
people
good
like
session.
those who have posted Seema's name.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Hi
Hi.
Ganesh.
Good to see you, Ganesh.
We'll start exactly in a minute.
Wow, we have 77.
Kevin, sir.
All right. Okay. So I think we can start. First of all, I would like you all to put your selves on mute so that we can record, and many of our other classmates are also waiting for this recording. So, before I introduce Ali, I'll introduce all my classmates here, Ali, to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all are having a great time right, Ali. So every evening from 7 to 9, we are very active on our IGNU classes, and it's a lot of participation, very interactive classes. And in fact, we people have created our study groups, and we are every day since November, December, I think we started, teaching each other. We did some bit of peer teaching. So we have a gynecologist in the group who taught us prenatal psychology. We have IT guys, all that, who are taking up research and stats. So we guys are, sometimes pitching in for lifespan. So, we just are studying together, enjoying the process of understanding human behavior. Everybody here is coming from various backgrounds. There are people who are art therapists, corporate guys, all, everybody who is in various fields, but who have a passion towards psychology, right? So, and recently in the last 3 weeks, our official online classes have started. And all of us are, participating in that and really enjoying understanding cognitive psychology or personality and all of that, right, Ali? So that is what it is. And Ali, Dr. Ali, of course, has been a counselor for almost the last 4 decades. And he's one person I could think of, because the other day in one of our classes, we were having a discussion, and, all of us looked a little confused. Do we need a license to start, practicing counseling? Which field? And it all started because we had to decide, one of the 3 electives, which is, our counseling or organizational or clinical. So we were all wondering what to take up, what is the scope, what do we need to do next? Is MA enough? Is distance education enough? So we had a lot of discussions, and we realized that, we ended up confusing each other a little bit more. And immediately I thought of you, Ali. I thought, somebody like you who's been around for so long, can give us some direction. With all your experience. And I know you are a person who's very neutral, right? You are somebody who's not going to be, so you'll give us a very neutral view of how things are in India, how this subject psychology is treated, and what is the demand for psychologists and all of that. So we asked our classmates to prepare a Google sheet, and you've seen some of those questions. So we can start, Ali. You can tell us about all these 3 areas and what is the scope, like this, right?
Yes.
Right, Ali.
Yes.
Over to you.
So let me start off firstly by really congratulating you people, not to flatter you, but I really feel nice when people take a genuine interest in human beings rather than anything else. See, every profession, every vocation has its value. Software programmers are needed, lawyers are needed, architects are needed, journalists are needed, everybody is needed. But I think finally, the thing that boils down is that, everything is for the human beings. And those who take interest in human beings are the ones who I really appreciate and admire. So I know that many of you must already have a lot of qualifications and achievements. You must be doing very well in whatever professions. Many of you have been very successful homemakers, I'm sure, and have done a great job in bringing up your children, bringing up your husbands and wives or whatever it is. But the fact that you chose to get into this, whatever your age is and whatever your background is, the fact that you decided to commit yourself to a 2-year program to understand basically human behavior. That is psychology. Psych is the mind. Psychology is the study of the mind. So you are now come into this. So as Seema told me, the next crossroads is that, okay, now that I have been studying all the subjects, now and when I'm told that I have to select, the field, and three choices have been given to me, what do I select? Before I even go on to giving you a little bit of a comparative idea about the three options that you have in front of you, let me make one thing very clear. Whenever you need to take a decision, please look at the things in a holistic manner. Look at the complete picture before you decide uh, anything. I was reminded of the person, who was parking the car and just saw a shop which was a few feet or height. And when she looked into the showroom, she saw a signboard which read, uh, "Please do not touch the salesmen." It was a ladies' items shop. And the signboard said, "Please do not touch the salesmen." She was shocked. She said that customers come and touch the salesman also, is it? Anyway, she went inside and then she saw the lower half of the signboard, which continued by saying, "Please do not touch. The salesman will take out the products and give it to you." Now, that is what happens in real life. Sometimes we get carried away. Like Seema was just telling me, and she was sharing with me earlier also, that how you can tend to, get pushed into something or the other, and people say that, "Oh, this is very good, that is not good, this has scope, that doesn't have scope." If you stop for a moment, whenever you need to take
Psychology
an
class
important decision like this, please look at the the total picture. Now, in this case, what is the total picture? The total picture would be that I have spent so many years of my life in this world. I have done this. All of you, of course, have all obviously gone through your basic education. The very fact that you're doing a master's course shows that you're all graduates in whatever field you have done your graduation in. So you have, come up to that level. And as you know that, hardly 15, 18% of all Indians actually become graduates, and not even one third of that number actually go for higher studies. So you belong to that elitist group, those less than 10% or 5% of the people of our country who are going in for higher studies beyond your graduation. So now from here, if you look forward and say, what do I want to achieve? So firstly, why did I get into this course? There would have been various reasons, right? From, I was always very passionate about psychology. I wanted to understand human behavior from the time I was a child. Somehow I never got that opportunity. I went into such and such field. And then I decided, no, now I want to get back into this and I want to understand. So that's how I came into this. Some of you may have done that. Some of you may have, said, "My friends are doing it. I'm sitting at home and getting bored. So what do I do? Come on, let me do an MA. MA in what? Okay, somebody says psychology, so I got into it." Doesn't matter. Whichever is your reason for getting into it, now you are into it and you are in the water and you are swimming. You are, let's say halfway through the channel. Now is the time to set certain long-term goals and to work backwards to determine which of these three electives would be most suitable for you. There was a very touching incident long back. The first, handicapped girl, disabled woman who swam the English Channel. She was polio afflicted. She had no strength in her legs. She had to swim with her hands. And she decided to swim across the English Channel from France to UK. She practiced, 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 and one fine day she said, "Okay, now I'm going to do it." And she jumped into the water in France and started swimming. Hours and hours and hours she swam and swam and swam and swam. And there was this boat following her, monitoring her. And at some point, she started giving up hope. And she looked this way, that way. She looked at the people in the boat. She started crying and she got very upset. And then she said, no, please pick me up and take me back. And I can't do it. Anyway, they pulled her into the boat and said, instead of taking you back, we'll take you to England because you are much closer now to England than you are to France. And the boat proceeded towards England, and within few minutes, the boat was there in England. And she said, oh my, I didn't realize that I'm so close to England. You know why? Because there is inevitably a fog surrounding the British Isles. And that fog prevented her from seeing how close she had come to UK. Then she made up her mind and she said, next time I am going to attempt the same feat, but when the weather is absolutely clear, which is very rare in UK, but it did happen, of course. One fine day, the weather was absolutely clear. And that was the day she jumped in France, started swimming. And she started getting tired and she started losing hope. And she put her head up and peeped straight ahead. And you know what she saw? She saw a thin line of the coast. And she said, yay, there is England in front of me, my goal. And then she started swimming. And she would swim, and again, almost desperate, giving up hope. And she would look up and say, hey, by now I can see the hills and the contours of UK, so I am so much closer. And then she swam a little more and she said, hey, now I can even see the trees and the houses and things like that. I'm that much closer. And she finally made it. So what is the moral of the story? I hope you people still like to listen to stories, because if you say that, no, I am too old to listen to all these stories, then I don't know how great a psychologist you will make. So I tested you by telling you this story, but it has a meaning. That when you are taking this selection, don't look at it from the narrow point of view, which has more scope, which will get me a job, which will allow me to do some higher studies. No, look at it from a holistic point of view. So the first thing to do is do not go by the herd mentality. Listen to people. There will be others who will say, yes, I am going to go in only for organizational and industrial psychology. Somebody will say, no, I am going only for counseling psychology. Listen to them, find out why they are, but with a very neutral mindset. This is what suits them. What suits me is the question. So break free from that herd mentality. The second thing to look at is this thing called scope. For years and years and years, I have been looking at this picture of the scope, and I really do not understand what it means. There is periscope, there is microscope, there are so many scopes. But when you talk about scope in terms of careers, I am amazed how short-sighted people are, because scope changes. Before you know it, scope changes. I was very happy to learn this lesson during my student days. When we joined IIT Bombay, that time BTech was 5 years. 5 years we had to undergo the engineering course, okay? When we were joining, we were told that the best scope is in chemical engineering. The chemical engineers used to get jobs immediately. Next was aeronautical. And then came electrical and mechanical and metallurgical and civil right at the bottom. So what happened, depending on the ranks, those who were the toppers, they all went for chemical or for aeronautical. 5 years, we all went through the process. After 5 years, there was no jobs for chemical engineers. There were hardly any jobs for aeronautical engineers. And because government had de-recognized cement during those 5 years, I mean de-classified or de-controlled cement rather, civil engineering was booming. So the bottom rankers who had no choice but to take civil engineering, they were the first to get jobs. In 5 years, scope changed like that. And from then till now, that has always been the case. And every time people still ask me this question, which one has got more scope? And if you had not believed me and if you had not agreed with me for so many years, at least now with the coming of our great COVID, at least now understand. 2 years back, every second college in Bangalore was starting a program in travel and tourism. They had a BBA in travel tourism. They had a BA in travel. They even had a BCom with travel and tourism. What has commerce got to do with? No. BCom combined with travel and tourism. Why? Because travel and tourism has got maximum scope. You get into travel and tourism, fantastic jobs. You get jobs in airports. You fly all over the world and something. And before you know it, Corona peaked in. And now where do you travel? What tourism do you do? The reverse of that. Now, not a single student is even considering taking up a course in travel and tourism, thinking that Corona is going to be around for the next 50 years or something of that sort. It's just a matter of time that the Corona will be over, people will start traveling and touring, and they will travel with a vengeance because they've not been able to do it, and the field will be booming all over again, right? So if I hopefully have made my point clear that do not go by this scope business. The third and most important thing is take up something which you enjoy doing, please. Whatever you take up, you're going to study that for 1 year. But after that, you're going to make it your vocation, right? You're going to be working in that field. Ask yourself, will I enjoy being in this? Do I enjoy being a clinical psychologist working in abnormal psychology, dealing with patients who've got psychosis and major mental illnesses and this and that? Would that be my calling? Would that make me happy? Would that make me fulfilled? Or would I like to be, in industrial and organizational psychology? I'd like to be in the corporate world. I'd like to be working with, with groups of people, with management, with things like, manpower deployment and assessment of people and so many other things. Or would I be happy being a counselor and dealing with people at an individual level, understanding their issues, helping them to set goals, helping them to overcome, issues like depression or confusion or setbacks that they face in life. Now you have to ask yourself, what out of these do you really enjoy? These are some of the things which I want you to please focus on. Now, let me give you a quick overview on what I understand about these three fields. Okay, let me start with clinical psychology. I'm sure most of you know it, but just as a refresher, I'm again, clarifying to you, what do we mean by clinical psychology? Clinical psychology primarily deals with what we call as psychopathology. What is pathology? Dealing with, illness, disease, disorders. So when the mind goes into a diseased state, when the mind is suffering from a disorder, that is when clinical psychology or abnormal psychology steps in. Now we differentiate between psychosis and neurosis. Neurosis is very simple disorders. Even a person who's got who cannot never control his anger and he keeps getting into trouble, he keeps getting into fight because he's short-tempered, and yet, he again loses his job, he gets into fights with his family, all these type of things. Those are also people suffering from a mental disorder, but those come under the category of neurosis. Then you may have heard of people suffering from schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, these type of things. Now, these are people suffering from psychosis. If you allow me to give you a Rancho definition of the difference between psychosis and neurosis, Please don't quote me to some top-notch mental health professionals. They will come and lock me up in the man's for trying to oversimplify things which are very, very deep. But according to me, neurosis is when a person behaves in an abnormal manner, in a manner which is not acceptable to society, and he knows what he is doing. Psychosis is when a person behaves in an abnormal manner, in a manner which is not acceptable to society, and he does not know that he is doing something wrong. For example, neurosis also includes chronic addictions, a person who just cannot do without having his drink at the end of the day, or drugs or whatever it is. The next day he knows what he has done. He knows that he is getting into trouble. He knows that he is doing something which is unwanted and all that, but he gets dragged into it. People who suffer from OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, they know that I have already washed my hands, but he again runs and washes his hands because he's not satisfied. He knows that everybody else washes their hands only a few times in a day, and I am washing my hands 100 times in a day, which is abnormal, and people are laughing at me, but I can't help it. I'm sorry. I still feel very uneasy that some germs may have got onto my hand. Now, all these people suffer from neurosis. Maybe about 10 or 20% of the population of the country suffers from neurosis. And in most of those cases, the clinical aspect, that is medication, plays a very minor role. It is most of the behavioral aspects that have to be dealt with. There are roughly 2% of the population, 1 to 2%, who suffer from psychosis. People who, as I said, suffer from, let's say, schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or those sort of things. A person may come and tell you that somebody is standing outside the door with a knife and he wants to kill me. I can hear him very clearly saying that he wants to come inside and kill Ali. Now, I'm not bluffing you. I actually believe that that is what is happening, that there is somebody standing there. So I am behaving in an abnormal manner, and I don't even know that I'm doing it. If I tell you and you start laughing at me saying, hey, there's nobody there here, don't be stupid, I get very upset, because I say, well, you're my friend, you're supposed to be, sympathizing with me, and why are you saying all these things? And I start getting very upset with you, and I start getting isolated from society. I started misbehaving and all that. Why I'm giving you this long duration is because people, those of you who select clinical psychology or abnormal psychology, you are going to be dealing with that 2% of the population. So are you mentally prepared to work with them? It is very deep, it is very extensive, it is very rewarding, no doubt, because nobody wants to work with these type of people, and you will be the people working with such people. I would really appreciate you. The second thing to keep in mind if you are choosing clinical psychology is two things, in fact. One is that at least in a country like India, it is the psychiatrist who has always got the last word. The psychiatrist is always the head of the team. The psychiatrist is always the person who takes final decisions about what to do with a person who is suffering from a mental disorder. The clinical psychologist is in this surrounding, is like a this thing. It's like almost like the relationship between a doctor and a nurse. However qualified, however competent the nurse is, she's always subordinate to the doctor who takes the final decisions and all that and gives instructions to the nurse. So you will, if you really want to be effective and work in a clinical environment, you will be working with a psychiatrist, and you will have to be number 2 to the psychiatrist. The other thing is that effective clinical psychologists are people who have gone through a very rigorous program of working with patients who have this mental disorders. We have very few institutions in our country which offer this 2-year MPhil. The number one in that, of course, is NIMHANS. NIMHANS offers a 2-year MPhil in which, on an average, the MPhil students spend 3 hours in the classroom and 6 to 8 hours in the wards or in the OPD, day in and day out dealing with the patients. understanding every aspect of the patients, their relatives, their family members, the caregivers, explaining to them, working with them, assessing them, and things like that. Now, unfortunately, the number one, NIMHANS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, then our Ranchi Institute of Mental Health, all these are the top-notch institutes which run this 2-year MPhil program. One is the number of seats is very, very few. In NIMHANS, for example, they take 30 people, of which about half of them belong to some reserved category or something. So you are competing for about 15 seats all over India. The second thing is that to be eligible to get into an MPhil in clinical psychology, you need to have done a full-time master's in psychology. As a person who has done an open university course, you are not eligible for that MPhil. So these are some of the things to be kept in mind. And then based on that, you proceed. Because just taking up clinical psychology as an elective does not make you practically competent. Once you complete this course, and if I say, my brother seems to be behaving like a madman, he's hitting people, or he's saying that somebody is there to kill him, or he's gone into delusions saying that I am the king of the world or something of that sort. And if I bring him to you, you will not be competent to deal with that person. You will not know anything except some basic theory, which is not going to make you competent, right? The second is, yes, Geeta, you can ask questions, not in the last, but just in a few minutes. In fact, another few minutes, I'll finish the other two, and then we will be having an open house. Organizational psychology. You're primarily dealing with groups of people. You're working in an organized setup, and you have to be part of that organization. So there will be these people who will lay down certain norms and this and that, and you will have to work within that. And also remember, when we say organization, there is a thing called a bottom line. Every organization says, okay, you're working for the welfare of our employees, you're helping them, motivating them, you're doing this, you're dealing with whatever the issues that they are facing. There may be interpersonal issues, there may be promotion problems, training up people to become more competent or to handle their roles, all that you are doing. But finally, how is it benefiting the organization in monetary terms? So within that constraint, you have to work on the thing. You will be almost part of HR. Those of you who are already HR professionals, I need not tell you what it is, and you are competent and you are working in that. Those who are getting into industrial, and organizational psychology would be working very closely with the HR professionals, and you would be part and parcel of that team and that thing which works with these organizations, and ensuring that people overall get whatever the activities and whatever the personal needs and all that are there. Just as a side thing, I wanted to tell you that I am one person, I'm a rebel in a lot of matters. Whenever I hear this word HR, what is the full form of HR? Human resource management, right? I somehow do not like the idea that humans are treated as a resource. Humans are an end to themselves. They are not a resource. They are not some means to achieve something else. So the very fact that we have named that entire gamut and that profession and that department as human resource management, it means you are being treated as a resource to finally achieve that bottom line or that profits and all that. Somehow, I think that is something that people need to look into. Of course, they won't do that. They will say, this man has gone mad, let him do what he wants. We will continue doing. We know what we are doing. The third one is counseling psychology. Now, in counseling psychology, what would you be doing if you select that and if you take it up as a profession? You would, in most cases, be working at an individual level. Here again, you may be part of an organization. I don't deny that, but you may be part of a corporate organization. You may be part of an educational institution. You may be part of an NGO or whatever it is. Or you may be practicing as a counselor by yourself. Regardless of what you choose to do, The focus of a counseling psychologist is a person who deals with the individual person. The person in front of me is the most important person at that time. I am going to work towards the well-being of this person to ensure the mental health of this person remains okay. And if it takes a dip, I will see how it can be pulled up. So you will be learning the nuances of dealing not only with people who have a crisis, like somebody who is suicidal and this and that, or some relationship that is on the verge of breaking up and all that. Those are crisis situations. But you will also be dealing with what we refer to as facilitative counseling, preventive counseling. Some of you may go into specialized counseling also. So you will be facilitating as a counselor to help youngsters, students choose a career, for example. What I'm doing right now is facilitative counseling to you. You do not have any problem as such. It's not that you have failed in the exam or you've given up your studies and you don't know what to do. But you have to move forward. So I am trying to facilitate that process and help you take the right decision. Same way with preventive. There may be a student, who's not studying well and who's going off track. There may be a couple who are basically in love with each other, but they're having a few arguments too much and things of that sort. And how do we deal with them and to prevent this sort of thing happening? There may be somebody who's overworking and he may get himself into problems eventually. Right now, he's very happy with whatever he is doing. So I would like to prevent his mental health from going down. This is all the work that is done by the counseling, psychologist. So in a nutshell, these are the three things which I wanted to share with you. Also keep in mind that your elective will only give you a theoretical foundation. You will have to put in a lot of practical efforts into whichever field that you want to get into. In fact, I also know of some people who take up an elective which is not what they are proposing to do. Supposing I want to become a counselor eventually, what I do is I select abnormal psychology as my elective with the idea that let me understand what happens to people with mental illness and this and that, so that tomorrow when I'm counseling people, family members and these and all those type of things, whenever there's an occasion to deal with somebody with psychosis or neurosis or somebody who's a victim of somebody who is psychotic or neurotic, I will be able to understand that. So they purposely take the elective, which is not going to be their future, because anyway, when I'm going to get into counseling psychology, there's a lot more I'm going to practice, study, get practical experience and all that. So let me take advantage of the fact that I can study, clinical psychology. So I will take that up. This is also one thing that I want you to keep in mind, that you need not necessarily take up the elective, which you plan to use as your forte, as your career in the future. You may want to take up another one to get that complementary inputs and knowledge on that field, and then come back to whatever you want to. Okay, I think I've spent half an hour talking. If you are not tired, I am definitely tired of listening to my own voice, but no choice. I've already got about 30 odd questions over here. I'll start with running through this, and then, as I told Geeta, we are open to your chat box, and once I start or rather finish with this quickly, we will have an open house. Question number 1, scope of each specialization. After listening to the entire Ramayana, you ask Rama and Sita brother and sister. So please, there is no microscope, there is no periscope, there is no such scope. And even if there is at present, selecting based on scope is the worst thing that you can do. After doing masters in counseling, what are the things need to be done before practicing? Practicing. There's nothing to be done before practicing. You have to start practicing. It's like saying that after learning all the theory about swimming, what do I need to do before I practice swimming? You jump into the water. And I would even take you one step forward. After doing masters in counseling, you say, why do you want to wait till you do masters in counseling? You start jumping into the water. Every time you're attending a theory course in swimming, just after that, jump in the water and at least splash the water around to get a feel of it. So regardless of which elective you're taking, please start looking for opportunities to do it. And when people tell me I don't get opportunities, I feel very sad. 130 crore human beings we are surrounded with. The problem of plenty everywhere around you. Even when you're under lockdown, you stand at your gate and probably there'll be a hawker going past. You stop him and buy whatever vegetables he's selling and start talking to him. He becomes your counselee. 10 minutes he will pour out his whole life story to you. Now you will say, is that a counseling session? No, I have to put on that neon sign, me the great counselor, counseling psychologist, and you the counselee who is in trouble, and you come to me and you register your name and you pay fees, and then only we have. It doesn't work that way, because we are dealing with human beings. Remember that. When dealing with human beings, the human being is most important. That is something, regardless of which elective you choose, please do not neglect this part of it. After doing distance course of Masters in Psychology, can we do MPhil in clinical psychology? I just told you, no, as far as NIMANS, AIMS, Ranchi, that institute of this thing, all these top-notch institutions are concerned, they don't take people who come from the open university system. The MPhil course is to be discontinued soon. Yes, there's a lot of talk going on that the MPhil course is to be discontinued, but I doubt whether the MPhil, which is run by institutions like NIMANS and AIMS, is going to be discontinued, because it's not like the typical one-year MPhil, which is done by most universities as a stepping stone to get into research and PhD and all that. So what will probably happen is, as far as abnormal or clinical psychology is concerned, these institutions will give a new name to it, and they will continue with the 2-year course, because it's extremely needed everywhere. Okay, then will choosing to do MPhil, which is soon to be redundant, post or MA, affect our chances of getting into a PhD or a doctorate program? You don't have to. If your idea is to get into a doctorate program, go ahead. Because as I told you, the MPhil of these top institutions is not open to you. If you just do an MPhil in one of the, so many of these universities which just offer a 1 year, it will be just more of what you have learned in MA. It will take you a little deeper, which you can study on your own. I would rather that you spend that year getting yourself some practice and first-hand, exposure to the field, rather than wasting your time. There are a lot of universities who, after your MA, will give you admission into PhD, if that is your aim. But again, the same question. Do not enroll for either an MPhil or a PhD unless it fits into your long-term goal. It is like saying that, in my locality, Ola cab is available, and what is that? The auto rickshaws are available, and something else is available. Which one should I take? Where do you want to go? First decide that, then decide the means to it. So whether it's an MPhil, whether it's a PhD, whether it's any of these, academic courses, they are your vehicles. They are your instruments to take you towards your long-term goal. Is a clinical psychology specialization absolutely necessary, preferred by colleges when applying for this thing? No, nothing of that sort. Then any scope of MA psychology after BCom, BEd, is counseling or industrial psychology a better choice? There is no such thing as a better choice. It makes no difference whether you have done BCom or MBBS or LLB or whatever you've done and you are coming into MA. You have come into it because you want to deal with human beings. You genuinely care for them. You feel my calling is in working with the human mind and helping people to become better. See, any of these things, what do they aim for? They aim for a world which has got good mental health. And mental health, let me tell you, is not only as important as physical health. In many ways, it is more so, because the mind controls the body. You have to understand so many of these, factors. Ah, okay. Is RCI applicable, mandatory for clinical fields or required in other work fronts, etc., etc.? And then there are questions also: to be a counselor, do you have to have an RCI registration? Now, RCI is Rehabilitation Council of India. The purpose of RCI is to protect people with disabilities. So any professional working with a person who has got a disability, it can be a physical disability, it can be a mental disability. For example, it can be a child who has no legs or who cannot see, or it could be a child who is mentally retarded. Any of these people with disability, to work with them, you need an RCI registration. If, let's say, you choose to be a counselor and you want to work with students in a school or college, you want to work at the slums or community level with an NGO, you want to work in a corporate setup, you want to set up your own clinic and your own consultation thing and you want to run it, RCI has no role to play. They will not prevent you or they will not question you why you have to doing this work. In which branch of psychology has more prospects in doing research? Can I quickly share a story with you? Because this girl sent me an email just 2 days back. 15 years back, there was this principal of a very reputed girls' college who used to invite me, saying that at least once in a month, come and spend 1 or 2 hours with my PUC second year students. Those were the days when colleges used to actually have classrooms and, where students would come all the way and sit down and teachers would come and talk to them. You remember that era long back? Anyway, this was even before that, 15 years back. When I was talking to this group of very lively young girls, second year PUC children, some of them didn't have any idea about their career goals. Some of them had some idea, but also needed some hand holding. There was one girl, sorry, one girl who said, "Sir, I want to be a herpetologist." I'd never heard that word 20 years back. Herpetologist? What is it? She said, "It is the study of snakes and reptiles." I first moved 2 feet behind. I said, "Is she with some snakes or reptiles or whatever she is?" I said, "Okay, dear, you want to become a herpetologist, you want to study snakes and reptiles, good for you. But the snakes and reptiles are not going to pay you money for looking after them, right? So what is the scope? What will be the earning?" I purposely asked her that question. And then I said, also, I do so much research on every possible, university and courses and this and that, day in and day out. I've never heard of any university in India offering a course in herpetology. So where are you going to study? She had everything planned out. She said, every alternate Sunday, I go and spend the whole day in the snake park in Bannerghatta Zoo. You can ask the zookeepers who take care of the snakes. I know more about the snakes than they do. They ask me questions about them. That much research I've done. The other alternate Sunday, I go into the suburban areas outside the city and look for snake skins. And I have identified a university in New Zealand which offers a course in herpetology. I'm going there. This was 15 years back. Why I remembered was that last week I got an email from her. She's in some exotic country in Africa. I don't even know the name of that place. And she says, "I'm thoroughly enjoying myself because there is no COVID around here. None of my friends, neither the snakes nor the reptiles, have got COVID. And we are all having a wonderful time. We are roaming around. We are doing whatever we want." And she earns somewhere in the vicinity of 8 to 10 lakhs per month in Indian rupees. So what is the scope in herpetology? That is what we need to look into. Okay. Could you name some good institutions or organizations for internship? Depends on what you are looking at. No, it's too general a question. And as I told you, don't even wait for internship because right now there is lockdown. There are so many things happening. Your internship, as I told you, can start at the gate when that vegetable vendor is going past. That is what I consider as internship and practice. It is available everywhere. Okay, if I take up counseling psychology as my master's, can I later shift to clinical psychology? It's going to be difficult because, like I told you, clinical psychology is a very in-depth science which deals with people who suffer from these major mental illnesses. For example, Alzheimer's, old age disease. It's a very rigorous, yes, but I do have that much also. I must tell you that it's not impossible for those who have it. One of my students who actually is a qualified dentist, she was not very happy with dentistry and this and that. She struggled for a few years. And then she came and did our counseling course. We have that 1 year part-time diploma in counseling. She did that. As part of the internship, we had introduced her to a number of institutions. One of them which we had introduced her to was Nightingale's. Now she started going there for internship and she took a liking to the old people. She had this great love for old people and they had a love for her. With the result that immediately after completing the course, she said, I am going to continue working here whether you pay me or not. Within a month or so, they found her to be so suitable that they put her on the salary. And then when they wanted to set up a residential care center, she's an unmarried girl. She was willing to go anywhere and do whatever she wanted. And she said, I will take care of this new project. And she set up that entire project. She lived there for so many years. Now she has gone on to a rural project, part of her spiritual guru who has invited her. So she has gone up there. But this is what it is all about. Now, Alzheimer's comes under the realm of clinical psychology. She is a person who had no exposure, no formal training in Alzheimer's. In fact, the institution where she worked with for so many years, they sent her to Australia for a 3-month rigorous course in understanding people with Alzheimer's and dealing with them and things of that sort. So people who are passionate find their own way. Do online certificates like those from Udemy help in any way? Are they credible? Credibility, who am I to tell you? But online courses and this and that give you a fairly good overview of what it is all about. Like you have specifically asked about CBT. I don't think a course from Udemy will make you a practicing CBT therapist. If I say that here is this person who's got a lot of cognitive distortions, who just does not, see reason, can you please work through CBT because you have qualified yourself from an online course? I really doubt whether you will be competent to do it, unless again you train under a CBT practitioner who's really good and is willing to share the expertise with you and give you those opportunities and things of that sort. I want to further pursue PhD or MPhil in clinical psychology. Please, I've already done that. I have my doubts, so could we get back in touch with you later? Yes, absolutely. Please feel free. I request Seema to just put up our email ID. So after this program is over, any doubts, anything that you want to get back, we give free counseling. Let me also specify on that. Any type of counseling, be it for personal purposes, for educational purpose like this, career guidance or anything of that sort, family, children, we don't charge money for it. And right now we are under lockdown. Otherwise, we welcome people. People come every day to our center and they get counsel. But we are still doing it through online, and we also do it on phone. So please feel free to get in touch with us. Okay. I'm also considering taking up MSc from Madras University in 2021 June batch with counseling as optional, etc., etc. These are all logistics, questions, and there are corporates as to the organization size of the this thing. All these type of questions. These are all specific individual questions. As I said, if you want, you can write to us and we will reply to you. The 34th question is the one where I'm stumped. I have absolutely no answer. The question is, why is Seema so lost all the time?
Sorry. That was
That is one question which I am totally stumped. I won't even attempt to give you, but I will tell you one thing. that Seema has been a very valuable part of our team for a long time now. And whatever work she has done in Team Banjara all this while, I have never even for one day felt that she is lost. She is so focused, she is so determined, she is so motivated. I'm not telling this to flatter Seema, but I'm telling this to help you to understand that when you take something up as a passion, something that you deeply believe in, and then take it up, no, you will never look back. Whether you become a herpetologist or whether you become a clinical psychologist or whatever you want to do, you will find your ways and means of doing these things. You will never look back. Okay, then Pushpa says, to study psychology in undergrad, is it necessary to take science subjects in 11th and 12th? No, as far as I know, many colleges do give admission. They give preference to students who have studied psychology, but there's nothing of that sort. I know of students who have done all this. Supriya says, I have a diploma in counseling. If I take clinical, as you said, will enhance my knowledge this side. This is my thought. Does it affect if I am looking for prospects for, say, a school counselor? No, definitely not. But the only thing is that if you're going to be a school counselor, you are unlikely to be dealing a lot with, abnormal psychology. So even if you have a student whose one parent is, suffering from some major disorder and all that, as a school counselor, you will not be involved with that. You will probably, the best you will do will be referring that person to a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist or whatever it is. And that's what happens. People don't even refer to clinical psychologists. They only refer to psychiatrists. And the psychiatrist, after the medication part of it and this and that, then brings in the clinical psychologist to do the behavioral issues and those sort of things. Then, okay. I've done BE and now I am doing MA distance in psychology. How can I get into clinical psychology and start practicing it? I think I've already answered that question, Yusra. That clinical psychology, if you really want to practice, you have to work in the clinical environment. You have to work in a mental health hospital, whether you do your MPhil or whether they take you as an intern and then you work, with the team of psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, and psychiatric social workers and psychiatric nurses. These 4 people constitute the team that works with people who are suffering from mental illness. Vasudha says, can I perform experiments on and with autistic children as a counseling psychologist? That's what I told you. When you work with autistic children, they come under the category of disability. And strictly speaking, you are supposed to have an RCI registration. But in practical terms, nobody is doing that. If anybody is working with autistic children, there's hardly anybody willing to work with autistic children because they're not that easy to deal with. So if you have that love for autistic children and you're willing to, work for it, you can join up with a team where at least one team member has the RCI registration. So that takes care of the procedural aspect, and you can be part of the team. And then, yes, definitely you can. But when you say perform experiments, please be very sure about the type of experiment that you are performing. Can I take counseling as specialization and get a job in an IT organization, or only organization specialization is required to get into? No. There are so many of my students who have done counseling courses and they are working in IT. It's just that the numbers are not very large as of right now, because the IT and most of the MNCs and this and that are only now in the last few years waking up to the concept of what they call as, employee development or programs and those type of things, which is basically mostly counseling and taking care of their mental health and this and that, but it is improving. Okay, can I go for counseling later if I take clinical now? Yes, you can definitely do that. And is MPhil and PhD different? Yes, definitely they are different. As I told you, MPhil has always been used over the years as a stepping stone to PhD. So that after your master's, you do a short, most of the universities have a 1-year MPhil. It is like, preparing yourself for the longer haul, which is a PhD. And PhD, as you know, takes anywhere between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. If you're really sincere about it and if you really want to do a good job of it, okay? And preparing for civil service exam, planning to take psychology as optional subject. Which branch would be helpful? No, it doesn't make any difference as far as civil service is concerned. The psychology questions that they are going to ask you are going to be very basic of what you've already studied. So it's not going to make a difference which elective you take up. Which specialization to choose, counseling or clinical? If I want to pursue technology for psychology, but it depends on what you are going to be using that data analysis and those type of things. Are you going to use it for people with mental illness and that sort of thing? Then you take up clinical psychology. If you're going to use AI and machine learning and data analytics to deal with the common person, the 98% of the people who do not suffer from the psychosis and all that, then definitely counseling psychology would be better. Could you please talk about movement therapy? I don't want to do that because that's a specialized area. I do have very interesting things to say about movement therapy, dance therapy, art therapy. We'll talk about it individually, those of you who are interested. Shobha says, I have experience of teaching high school maths. Just completed my MEd course, as I always wanted to help adolescents with counseling and guidance. What would be my next step after MA psychology? The next step would be to jump into the water, nothing else. Start contacting your old students, start contacting your neighbors. You have already been a qualified teacher, you understand high school students, and particularly if you taught high school maths, hats off to you. In high school, I hated maths, and I always appreciated the maths teacher who had so much patience. I'm sure you are one of those type of people. Just start interacting with them, talking to them. Because of the lockdown, you can't meet them. You start calling them up, get on to them through chat groups or whatever means of contact that you can do. That would be the best step that I can recommend for you. Which specialization should I get into to pursue sports psychology? Yes, in that case, you should take up counseling psychology as your basic. And in that, you specialize in counseling, mentoring, motivating sports people. That's also a very upcoming field, and there's a lot of potential, and it's very satisfying if you are a sports person yourself and you want to see sports people doing well. I am pursuing MA psychology. I also plan to do my PhD in psychology. I don't have bachelor's in psychology. Am I eligible? It varies from university to university. But let me tell you, there are a lot of private universities who are bending rules left, right, and center. They're looking for PhD students. Somewhere or the other, you will get. It will be a little expensive and all that. But there's nothing preventing you from doing your PhD, despite the fact that you don't have a degree in psychology. Whether after doing DCS course, will I be eligible to apply as a counselor in schools? I think there are at least 100 schools all over India who have got our DCS students as their counselors, and not just schools. They are there in defense forces, they are there in universities, they are there in colleges, they are just about everywhere. So nothing prevents you to do that. Do international organizations absorb IGNOU? International organization is a very vague word, no? Which international organization of which country and for what job and all that. So I can't give you a very generalized answer. Which specialization should I take for marriage counseling? That's very interesting. If we can, really master the concept of marriage, then I think you are eligible for the Nobel Prize, not just a PhD, because that is where most counselors get stumped. But yes, there is a need for it. Start with counseling psychology, move into the area of family, understanding family as a whole, and then move into specifically marriage counseling. But don't detach yourself by saying, I'm only a marriage counselor. No, it doesn't work that way, because marital relationship affects the children more than it affects the husband and wife. So you also have to be concerned about the children and the impact that it is happening. You have to counsel them. You have to, take their welfare into account. So you have to look at it in a very holistic manner. But yes, start off with counseling and move into marriage counseling. There's a tremendous need in those areas. Where do we do the specialization in counseling, like child psychology, etc.? You do it right here in MA. They are offering it to you. You take it up. Once you have done that and completed your MA, if you want to go further, either at the practical level or at the theoretical, higher studies level, get back to us. We'll talk about it at that time. But there are plenty of opportunities available. Anything regarding oncopsychology and any inputs, yes, oncopsychology is another area. That is, counseling people who are suffering from cancer or who are cancer survivors. Primarily, it comes down again to counseling psychology as a base. And from there, you understand more and more of this. For example, our students, before all this lockdown and all came, one of the areas where they would go is to places like Kidwai Memorial, which deals primarily with cancer. And some of them for years and years have been working in Kidwai, as counselors over there, helping these patients over there, helping the caregivers and all that. And there are courses also which are held. Even Kidwai itself has conducted 2-3 courses over the last few years, which our students who are working there as volunteers or as counselors, they've attended and they've upgraded themselves. There's a very good association of people who work with oncology and cancer patients. You can become a member and you can attend their conferences and things of that sort. Will the organization restrict our knowledge application? Will they limit us? Varies from organization to organization. Kaushik says, I am from the commerce background and now I've taken up MA psychology. Are there reputed universities which will consider me? I told you that abroad, I don't know. I'm not familiar with studies abroad, but in India, the rate at which private universities have prolifered, and they are more than open to take students in their PhD programs. There are enough opportunities, but just be careful that you join a PhD program where you really learn. Sorry to say, but there are universities who are using PhD as a means only to make money.
So if you don't mind, I would just like to ask a few more things with the same question. So like you just said, there are many private universities which are willing to take students for the PhD programs in India. But what if I want to select, because everyone usually selects their PhD according to the faculty they'll be working under during their research. So will it be possible that these private universities will have good faculties and good research programs? That is why I mentioned abroad.
Yeah, some of them do, some of them don't. The variety now, when we say universities in India, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of universities. There are some private universities which are doing far better than the established old-time government universities. There are some which, as I said, are there just to make a quick buck or whatever it is. The range is very, very wide. But as you said, you have to choose, you have to select, you have to talk to the faculty members, find out what is going on. A lot of part of your research itself will go in this process of selecting the right university and the right, once you have done that and you manage to get a good, faculty and a guide and this and that, half your issue is over. Again, movement therapy, as I said, I'll talk to this is specialized areas which I don't want to take the time of everybody else. How useful is counseling psychology for one to be a better coach, say executive coaching and general life coach? Yes, it lays the foundation. Of course, you have to learn life skills coaching and this and that. We also keep doing this life skills programs and this and that. Next week we are starting one on child development also, those who want to work with children. So a lot of those things are going on, but your counseling psychology, what you're going to be learning, if you take that as an elective and whatever you study and learn about it later, will definitely be an add-on to your work. If you are a coach, a mentor, you want to do developmental work with youngsters and things of that sort, this will add on to it. But you will also have to learn the skills of imparting life skills and mentoring and personality development and all these type of things. Is RCI license required for research with autistic children? Yes, if you are practically going to be working with autistic children in their midst, then RCI is definitely required as per the law. Whether they are implementing it or not is a different question. Okay. Akila, very insightful session. Yes, I know you are also from Banjara. Thank you, Banjara, for today. And thank you, Akila, for being back with us. Girija says, good evening, sir. I've completed my diploma in engineering and degree and diploma in journalism and PG journalism. I have my own NGO and also doing as a journalist after this psychology course? Can I use this knowledge to my own NGO as counseling or as counselor? Can I use? Yes, from the background and from whatever you have written over here, I am very impressed that you are such a passionate person. You have gone into in such depth and you have struggled in different areas and come into this, and you are running. You are the type of person who can really do well in running an NGO, because I can see that passion in you. And I'm glad that you have taken up this MA course. And if you take up counseling as a specialization, you can do wonders in this thing. After completing my BSc degree, can I do counseling to people? You can do counseling to people even if you're dropped out from 5th standard. Who were the traditional counselors? It used to be that widowed grandmother sitting in one corner, to whom everybody in the family used to come running and cry in her lap, saying that when I'm studying this organizational behavior, or when I'm studying this nuclear physics, I'm having this problems and something. And she would be there and she would pat your head and she would say, don't worry, life will be fine, and those type of things. Can you give some guidance on what kind of research projects can be undertaken in each of these three streams? That depends on your university and what they are offering you. I don't, I can't interfere in that and tell you what type of thing. Whatever under the guidance of the university, whatever research projects and this and that they're doing, you do that. What I can help you with is, after completing the program and this and that, if you say that yes, now I want to upgrade myself, I want to get more into either research or practical things, that's when we can have a meaningful discussion. I've been talking a lot. I think I deserve a 2-3 minutes break. I have my colleague with me, Purnima, who is our director of Banjara Academy. And she has a very wide experience, primarily with career guidance and helping people of different ages. We also do career guidance for people who retire and come back and say, now what do I do? I'm still fit and fine. Maybe I can work for another 10, 20 years at least. So what do I do? Those sort of things. So can I request Purnima, after having heard me talking non-stop for 1 hour, can you please, a lot of thoughts must have come in your mind, whatever you want to share with the audience of today, please do that. I'll just stretch out for a couple of minutes and I will be back.
Hi, Purni.
Hi.
Purni, before you start, Purni, let me introduce you a little bit more. So Purni is the person who does all the action. She's the one who's like, into a lot of life skills, a lot of outdoors. She's worked a lot with the Indian military Jawans. She's done life skills for them for a long time. So she's a very hands-on person. So, everything is done very practically, and she's one person who will make things happen. Whether it's a counseling session, she'll just pair up everybody. She'll say, okay, this is the case study, you counsel this person. And also she's the one who is, gets the practicality into it. So it's not theory, the theory into practice is what Purni does. So Purni, over to you.
Thank you, Seema, for such kind words. Thank you. Basically, we do a lot of career counseling. And as Ali just mentioned, it's across the ages. So there have been people who have come after their retirement. So I would just want to share with you a little about not the technicalities of your course, but I want to address the issue of career by far. So when you make a decision to, take up psychology and now want to get more deeper. So if you look at career, it is something which we are going to carry with ourselves for the next, say, till 75, 80 years. Now, why I say 75, 80 years? Because with health sciences improving and with, medical services improving, we are very easily seeing that, we are going to be functional, yielding results, productive, at least till 75, 80 years of age. So it is always a good idea to plan career first. So basically what happens is, it's not that, you are lost. So you are doing this 4 or 5 years, there is a burnout because you have not had the aptitude, but you just did it because maybe with herd mentality or some particular reason in mind. So what I would suggest is that plan your career, because your career then is a combination of aptitude. So what is your aptitude? It is what comes very easily. So be a little alert and aware that what is it that comes very easily to me? What is my potential? What is my capability? So that is one part, which is your aptitude. Going with that are your skills. Now, whatever 3 areas that you are looking at, what you need to do is understand, speak to people and ask them that, okay, one might be in it because his father has got a clinic ready. The other person might be in it for pure passion. One might be saying, no, I think I just come and do it because I want to do something. It's okay, the reasons are different, but then ask all the 3 of them, what are the skills that are needed by you to be carrying out these tasks on a day-to-day basis, and then try and find out what type of skills you have with you. Are you like a patient person? So if you're going to be dealing with psychotics and things like that, you need that much of patience. What is your threshold for taking stress? Are you a very social person? Are you a person who likes rules? So is corporate going to be your calling? So you need to be aware of what all are the skills with you, and then work backwards, that now what also I'm going to take as a major career and a minor career. So let's assume if somebody wants to get hardcore into clinical psychology, and you say, hey, counseling also appeals to me a lot. Fine, on Saturdays and Sundays, I'll do a little bit of counseling exclusively. That becomes your minor career, and you pitch in your aptitude, your skills, and your interest all together. So if you have made this decision, and if it is a long-term one, it's a good idea to speak to people, because not taking away credit, for the courses that are being offered. But if you think that if your course does not have too much of practical exposure, try and get it as much as possible from any avenue which is available to you. And wider your exposure, we have seen that deeper will be your insights and much better will be your competency. So all the best, guys. Rocket. Over to Ali.
Yes, and we have with us also one among your group who is, I feel very proud to say again that she's my student. We have Geeta with us, Geeta Solraj, who, when she was completing our course, became one of the first people in Bangalore to be struck down with COVID more than a year, 14 months back. And it was not just herself, it was also her husband and her teenage son, when nobody knew what is COVID and this and that. Can you imagine the shock and the unsettlement that she went through? And she was also symptomatic for 2 3 days. Her pain was so bad she thought she's not going to survive. She bounced back from that, and hats off to her. She said, anybody wants counseling on COVID, here I am. At a time when COVID had so much of stigma, nobody wanted to admit that they've had COVID, she said. And from that time onwards, we put her on every time. In fact, even the BBMP requested us for 8 wards to, counsel the patients who have been admitted under their care in the recognized hospitals. And Geeta was one right in the forefront, counseling all these people throughout the lockdown period last year. So can I have Geeta introducing herself, please?
Ali, thank you so much. I mean, what more can I introduce after you've given me such a lovely introduction? Nothing more to say. All thanks to Banjara, Purnima, Ali. I mean, it's like you guys are just brilliant. I'm so glad that I just walked into Banjara that day and, decided to do my counseling, my DCS. So I just won't take up too much of the time. I'm sure everybody else have questions. I've just written down. I have a couple of them. Please bear with me. One question was diagnosis, because I'm very interested in that. I don't know what specialty. I was thinking if you do a clinical psychology, maybe that would help you in the diagnostic purposes. But is that only for a psychiatrist, or if you do a clinical specialty, you would be eligible to diagnose?
No, in fact, most of the diagnosis is done by the clinical psychologist, not by the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist, whenever he's working in tandem with the clinical psychologist, he leaves the diagnosis to the, that's how they are meant to be in Western countries. The clinical psychologist works at par with the psychiatrist, is not subordinate to the psychiatrist. So okay. The clinical psychologist is trained in the psychometrics, whereby you find out what this person is suffering from. When I say something like schizophrenia, there are dozens of different forms of schizophrenia. So which is the one which is applicable to this person? What is the intensity of it? And then what is the impact on the emotional level? And then also doing an analysis to find out how the family members are getting affected. If the person has a spouse, a child, a parent, or whatever it is, to diagnose, to see to what level that person's stresses have gone out, or the person's self-esteem has come down or whatever it may be. So these are very fascinating things, but I only have one word of caution. Do not get so carried away by psychometrics that you look at only the letter of the law. You should also look at the spirit of the
whole
law. Anybody getting into psychometric is what? It is the measurement of the mind. So that's the simplest word that we use. It's a wonderful tool. Develop your own psychometrics, modify it, be happy and satisfied that you're doing it. I started 30 years back with some of the most popular psychometric tests. I invested a lot of money buying those tests, but over a period of time I have almost changed all of them to suit me, and they are my own testing methods. People may say, where did you get it from, and do you have this certificate and this and that? I care to hoots. I am only interested in the individual. What else, Geeta, you wanted to?
Yeah, so quickly. So I am actually, that was one of the things which I'm also interested in, but I'm also interested in the educational field, organizations. I don't mean just in just for children like individual basis, but educational organizations like schools and NGOs and things like that. So for that, would it come under organizational counseling?
No, it would primarily, involve counseling psychology, and that where the application of that goes. I have a student who used to be a teacher for a long time. She was that coordinator and this and that, a lot of experience she had, and then she became a counselor. Due to various reasons, now she has become immobile. She has had some problems with her legs and all that. She cannot move around and all that. So now she has taken up to the projects of setting up counseling centers in schools. So she advises them, guides them how to go about setting up counseling centers and what would be the experiences of different schools and all that. And she's doing a wonderful job of it.
So my area of interest was actually to change the curriculum for children. That's my idea after this, to bring in this main thing is mental health, to just educate the children, like how you have our first classes on giving the emotion wheel and things like that. So I want to work towards that. So that is my end goal. I'm working backwards.
Yeah. What I would suggest is to supplement the curriculum. Don't talk about changing the curriculum, because you are going to be hitting against a solid wall. I will never forget Madhav Rao Scindia, who was one of the most eminent and wonderful politicians that India had. He was the HR minister in charge of education department. And in a public platform, when they kept saying that he's such a great education minister, he will change the whole system of education, he turned around and said, if I can bring down the weight of the school bag by half, I would have achieved wonders. But I doubt if in my tenure I'm going to be able to do it. That is realism.
So that's again, counseling is better for that than
yes, definitely. Okay. With that, can I also move on quickly to our Sri Sri? Mr. Sridhar Srinivasan is here. Can I request him? Because he is also a very unique person. He is basically a hardware engineer who spent a lot of time, not only in India, but in Middle East and USA, working for some of the top-notch IT companies, and was very successful in his career. And then at one point he got interested. He slowly started moving towards behavioral sciences, towards this. And then he came in and he did our counseling course and a number of courses. Like I said, we have the life skills program and all that. He did that. And the wonder of wonders, he joined IGNOU not for a master's, but for a bachelor's degree in psychology. In 3 years, he completed that. And after that, he did not opt for the MA that you are doing. He opted for an MSc, which is much more rigorous. And he completed that also. We are very proud and very happy to have him as part of our team in Banjara. Can I quickly request him? We have a lot of spiritual gurus, but because he is Sridhar Srinivasan, we shorten it to Sri Sri, nothing to do with spirituality, but a wonderful person. And I would like Sri Sri to address you for a minute, please. Are you there?
Sri, are you around? Okay, we'll just check. He was here sometime back. Okay, we'll check.
I gave such a flattering.
Sunita, can you just check?
Not there to listen. Yes. But good.
Right. I broke my phone, otherwise I would have called him. Right. So, yeah. Ali, I was just wondering if you can also quickly tell everybody about where the different students after doing a counseling course are working other
Yeah.
than schools and colleges. If
Yeah.
you can just throw some light on that.
Yes, 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 there are a lot of things happening. In the meanwhile, there is a question: is there a possibility of doing a long-term internship with Banjara? Banjara's doors are always open, except when there's a lockdown, of course. Then the government forces us to close. But other than those days, we are always open. We are always looking for people who want to get in. It's just that, as I told you, since we do free counseling, majority of our programs are free of cost, including, like I said, career guidance, so many things. So we do not pay people unless they are part of some project where we are getting paid, then we definitely share whatever we are getting. But if money is not your criteria, you want to have practical learning and you want to have some good cups of tea and some laughter and all that, you are most welcome on a long-term basis. Okay. On that note, do you know of online counseling centers that are active now? Yes, I am told that there are a lot of online counseling centers which are very active. We are definitely active, but again, as I said, we are a free service. We get people even before this lockdown. We were getting people, and we continue to get people from all over the world. We don't even ask where they are and who they are and things of that sort. But there are others which are doing it professionally in the sense that they charge money and they give this online counseling. There are many of them. You can Google and this and that and find out. Purni has something to say?
Yeah, Ali, I actually had a ready list with me where psychologists and counselors, careers and job openings. So I thought maybe I'll save you the trouble of the list. Can I just read a few of them?
Yes, please. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'll just go on. It's schools, colleges, part-time or full-time, career counselors, assessors for aptitude, education counselors, curriculum fixing, evaluating, learning, modifying study techniques, children with special needs, intellectually challenged dyslexia or gifted children, consumer psychology, product development, displays, and economic assessment and planning, counseling industrial workers, clinical psychologists working in hospital environment, holistic health clinics and nutrition, homes for mentally ill, physically disabled, trauma victims, drug or alcohol de-addiction centers, sports counseling, budding sports persons, practicing as independent clinical psychologists, human resources professional in corporate, educational or social institutions, correctional and juvenile justice homes, data analytics, that is assessing human element of consumer behavior, geriatric counseling, that is with the elderly, marital counseling, mediation in divorce proceedings, military counseling, training men, officers and families, social welfare, that is working in NGOs for women in distress, children in slums, animal psychology and behavior modification, corporate social responsibility, that is projects and assessments of benefits surveys, life skills training, and disaster management counseling victims. So this is just one of the shortlists that we have with us.
Yes, Geeta has asked, can we have a few samples of people in different fields after taking one of the three options? See, but whichever of the three options that you take is regardless, because as I said, that goes by your passion and what you're looking at and things. But like I gave you the example of our Sridhar or any one of these people, you will find that people who are passionate are finding their niche and finding their way into anything that they want to. One of my students has become a dog counselor. We didn't teach him dog counseling. He went and learned it later on. Again, in Australia, he went there and he learned that. He's a qualified engineer, by the way, and he now runs his own dog training and counseling center called dogguru.in. You can look him up and things like that. So it is endless, the opportunities and this and that. It's just the only thing to tell you is, in general, if you ask me, whenever it is to do with human beings, you see, human beings are at the lowest of the priority, unfortunately. So the money that you make cannot compare with, if let's say you are a very successful, computer science engineer or something of that sort, then on an average, the chances of the amount of money or the salary check that you take home will not compare with those what we call as the sunrise industries and people working in marketing and so many other fields, where there is plenty of chance to make huge amounts of money. It doesn't work that way. There are a few I know who are working in the corporate setup and who are getting salaries which are quite decent. I also know people who are practicing individually as counselors and who are also doing very well and making sufficient money, but not in terms of coming anywhere close to Bill Gates or Melinda Gates or any of those people. Okay, Yusra says, as I mentioned before, I did my BE and now MA. I cannot do MPhil in clinical psychology after distance MA in psychology. I said you cannot do it in NIMHANS, AIMS, those top institutions. Other places you can do it. And how do I pursue my career in clinical psychology? Can I do PhD or is it? See, what I'm trying to tell you is that you are talking about MPhil, you're talking about PhD. I'm talking about careers. I'm saying you want to be a clinical psychologist, right? Tomorrow you will be in a hospital where there will be people suffering from major mental illnesses. How do you make yourself competent to deal with it? I gave you the example of our student who started off as a dentist, became a counselor, started counseling people with old age, went on to dementia and running a center, which deals primarily with a residential care center, which deals with Alzheimer's, which is a very specific and a very deep mental illness. It's one of the few mental illnesses which still does not have a cure for it. So that is the path that she took and she has never regretted it. She doesn't have a PhD, she doesn't have an MPhil. Those are only add-ons. Many of us you can do your PhD 5 years later also. Many years back, SRK came to me for career guidance. Yeah, I think about more than 15 years back.
Yay, Shah Rukh Khan.
No. S.R. Krishnamurti. He retired from a top position in a bank. For 10 years, he struggled trying to do some social work and some meaningful work. He was very frustrated. He came and did our counseling course and became a counselor. And then he enrolled for his PhD. In fact, the PhD research that he did, he converted it into a book, which was published, and I still have a few copies left over. He's no more. Now he died at the ripe old age of 92, but he left behind a book which he brought out, comparing the counseling of today with the way counseling was done in Ramayana and Mahabharata. Extensive research he did, wonderful job, and he has converted that into a book. And that is the passion. That was I'm saying. He knew that life is ebbing away. He was almost getting bedridden, but he made sure that he completed that book after his research work, and he brought out that book. I'm sure at the end, he must have really been able to look back at 90 years of his life and say, yes, I have done something meaningful. Okay. Divya says, thank you so much. Seema, thanks a lot. Yeah. So now we are to thank you.
Ali, just one. Yes, Ali, just quickly, we have quite a few artists here. Somebody's a dancer, somebody's an art therapist. They want to get into. So can they mix psychology with all these creative fields and what is, generally?
Yes, I already mentioned, and somebody said about movement therapy. We have one or two of our students who are into movement therapy, dance therapy, art therapy, music therapy. These are all specialized areas which I can discuss with you individually. Right now, you are at that crossroads. Take up whatever you feel like. If you are going to be in any of these therapies, then definitely I would suggest that you take up counseling psychology as your elective. Go ahead with that, and then we'll talk individually about what you are already into and what you're doing. One of my students does a very good work in art therapy courses that she conducts. Of late, because of the lockdown, she's doing it online. Otherwise, she does it here in our premises. So people who have done their basics in counseling with us, they enroll for this and they pick it up as a tool. Say art therapy or movement therapy, all these are basically tools to enhance your effectivity. So you're working with an adult, you're working with a child, and you find that the person is just not opening out. So if you've learned art therapy, what happens is that people, a child who's not opening out, refusing to talk, refusing to answer your question, you just leave a paper and some sketch pens or something, and slowly the child starts, drawing something. And from that, you get some ideas about what's happening in the child's mind. And then you provoke the child by saying, what did you mean by this? Why did you write this? Why did you draw this? And a lot of things come out. These are the beauties of specializations in areas. But you have to be basically an artist, a creative person to get into that. And then you use your art and your creativity in the realm of psychology or counseling or something of that sort. Wow, Madhavi is asking about military psychology. We have got actually dozens of our students who are in both Air Force as well as Army centers. Initially, they were very resistant. They said that no, we are a government of India defense undertaking. We have to go by the rule book. We need only people who have done their full-fledged, masters and PhD and all that. Slowly they came around. Today, such wonderful work that they are doing in innumerable places. Before this lockdown, I was invited to Air Force Station Agra to do some workshops. And lo and behold, the person who comes forward and says, "Hi Ali, long time I didn't see you." And I said, I had to peer at her, and then I realized, yes, she's my old student. She said, what are you doing here? She says, I am the station counselor of Air Force Station Agra. So this is what happens. You get into it, you struggle your way through. We've had people who have done free service for the military establishment saying, okay, you don't have a job now, I'll come and work free for you. And then they created ways and means to give them a salary. They said, okay, we don't have, a provision for a counselor. At one time, they had a project of HIV/AIDS. So some of our initial counselors, what they did was that the military said, these are HIV/AIDS consultants. And that's how they got in. But actually what they were doing was counseling for their people and their families and all that. It's very interesting. It's very fascinating. And there's a lot that we can do. But we have come to 5 o'clock. We always start on time and we end on time. We respect people's time and we respect your time. And I'm very happy that you have spent this time with us. Normally, if it was, a face-to-face type of an interaction, I would have looked at your faces and said, thank you for not falling asleep in such an afternoon session and being so attentive. But I can't say that because I don't know how many of you are snoring away if you muted yourself. But I think, yes, I think you have learned. And you can learn a lot from each other. And Purnima is going to wind up.
Yeah. Though there are so many, wonderful people who are set off to help human being, but there are also so many whom I think we know so personally. So warm regards to each one of you. They have been giving their responses and saying, love you, thank you, and nice to know you. Absolutely nice, even though we may have met yesterday, but again to meet you all and see you today is a great pleasure for us. Wish each one of you all the very best. I had put up the website address and email ID and everything, and Seema and Sunita, they're all over here. I see quite a few. Bhavna is here, Ranjita is here, Geeta is here. Please feel free through them. You can contact us. We are all available over here in case you have any further queries, clarifications. All right, so
Sunita wants to say something. I think Sunita wants to say something quickly.
So, I called Sridhar and he's on the call right after following up for 10 minutes. So I thought if he could also say a few words before we close.
Quickly.
After that flying, introduction that Sridhar, about Sridhar, Ali has given, no? So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a counseling call, so I had to log out at 4:30, right? So I was on the call till for an hour, and then whatever Ali said, and then he shared about it. So I similarly, of course, I had the guidance from Ali too, and I did my psychology in a bachelor's as well as I joined MSc in counseling and family therapy, and a lot of learning. So as Ali kept on saying, start swimming. That's the best way. So whatever you choose based on whatever long-term plans you have, please start getting engaged and then start swimming, start doing that work. That will help you gain knowledge as well as makes you feel comfortable and confident on what you want to do. Right? Yes. That's a quick message I want to give.
He also responds to emails and this and that. If you have any specific email which you want to address to him, you can do it on the same email ID. We'll pass it on to him if you want to learn from his experiences and he will also be there to guide you. Thank you all very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali, Purnish,
Thank you.
and all my friends
Bye,
here.
bye, everybody.
Enjoy the learning.
So much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much,
you.
Ali. See you. Bye, Banjara. It's bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.